Okay, gents, here we go. We are on Perek Yud Ches Pasuk Tes 18:9. Page, okay, so Moshe Rabbeinu goes out, page 394. 394. Moshe Rabbeinu goes out to greet his father-in-law Yisro. And so I mentioned yesterday, they greeted, Moshe Rabbeinu greets him, and we learned from here that you should greet first. The Gemara says that Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, who was the leader of the Jewish people at the time of the second Beis Hamikdash, Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, no one ever beat him. You're talking about the Gadol Ador, the leader of the generation. No one ever beat him to the greeting. No one ever greeted him first. Gemara says, "Afilu nachri b'shuk," even a non-Jew in the marketplace, Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai greeted him first. And it kill it, yeah. Yeah. Okay. He dies a slow death, yeah. He dies a slow death. So Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai greeted, it says no one ever greeted him first. And so we started to talk about this yesterday, just in practical applications. When you see somebody, even a public servant, like bus driver, say good morning to us. You get on the bus. That's why I do not like people get on the bus talking on their phones. They just ignore the driver like he's a bump on the log. Just walk right past him. And certainly say thank you for a ride. The fact that you paid for it has nothing to do with it. He still gave you. Would you rather not have paid and not gotten the ride? No, obviously you paid because you needed the ride. So the guy gave you a ride. You just didn't thank him for it. You certainly good morning to him. We get on the bus. Where's the menschlichkeit? Just basic decency. You walk into a store. You say hello. You see somebody on the street. You greet them. Okay. People sometimes, if you live in a frum community, you can't greet everybody you see on the street of Yerushalayim every Shabbos morning. It's not, people walking to shul or even in the morning, you got a lot of people around, but you see people, and under normal circumstances, you should greet people. Just walk past, you say hello, say good morning, whatever it is. Just basic derech eretz, basic menschlichkeit. Okay. So then, Yisro, he sits at this meal with Moshe Rabbeinu, and then take a look on 396, 5 lines from the bottom. This is where we pick it up. Vayimi Macharas was the next day. Vayeshev Moshe lishpot esa'ab. Moshe sat down to judge the people. Vayamor amal Moshe min haboker ad arav. The people were waiting on Moshe Rabbeinu, waiting for Moshe Rabbeinu from morning to night. Now, the first thing is there's a rule over here that we're going to find in Torah, because Rashi points out that this was actually on Motzei Yom Kippur. And so the Torah is now out of order, because this is actually now took place much later, but the Torah writes it earlier. And we learn a rule over here of ein mukdam u'me'uchar b'Torah, that what the Torah does not always write things in the precise chronological order that they took place in. So this actually took place later. But what happens is Moshe Rabbeinu is judging the people, and vayar chosein Moshe es kol asher hu osa la'am. So Moshe's father-in-law sees what he's doing to the people. Vayomer ma'adavar hazeh asher ata osa la'am. What are you doing? Madua ata yoshev avadecha. You're sitting alone. V'chol ha'am nitzov alecha min haboker erev. People are waiting morning to night. They're waiting to talk to you. It's not a good thing. Vayomer Moshe lechosto. Moshe says to his father-in-law, Ki yavo elai ha'am lidosh elokim. People come to me to ask me halachic questions. Ki yelam dovar bo elai. When they have some sort of issue. V'shafatiti bein ishu vein reu. I got to judge between people. V'odati es chukei elokim v'es torasav. I got to let them know the laws of God. In other words, the Torah is already given, because this is after Yom Kippur. The Torah is given, And now people have some sort of contention. Now, the obvious question is, they're out in the desert. What is there to fight about? They're out in the desert. What is there to fight about? How could Jews already have squabbles? You're out in the desert. So one of the answers I saw is that, the mixed multitude went with them from Egypt. There were Egyptians that went up with them, what's called the Erev Rav. They went with the Jewish people. Now, when the Jewish people took the gold and silver from the Egyptians, when they asked for all these gifts, the terminology the Torah says is they asked it from them, v'yish alu. They asked it from them, which sounds like they're asking for to borrow it. So now when those Egyptians are drowned at the sea, the Erev Rav, some of whom were related to them, they come back to the guy and say, hey, Yirmi, you took my father gave you that gold trinket over there. He died at the sea, so now you borrowed it from him. I'm the next of kin. I inherited it from him. And Yirmi says, no, that was a permanent gift. No, it wasn't. Now get off to Moshe Rabbeinu to find out what's the halacha. Or, I myself was thinking, the Gemara you learn about Mitzvah Shnaim Ochazin Betalis, two people are holding on to a garment, Zomer Shali, Zomer Ani Mitzvah Zomer Ani, each one claims they found it first. Well, what about at the Red Sea? When they were grabbing gold, hey, that golden chandelier, two guys grabbed it at one time. I got it. No, I got it. What do you do with it? Split it in the middle. So what do you do? Well, let's put it this way. If there's money, there's going to be some sort of contention. If there's money, there's going to be some sort of arguing. So they got to go to Moshe Rabbeinu. So Moshe Rabbeinu says to Yisro, listen, I was, what do you call it? I'm standing here all day judging the Jewish people. It's not good what you're doing. It's not good. Novel Tibol. You're going to wilt. Gam ata, gam ha'am. You can't do it. You're gonna wear out. It's too much for one man. Too much. Ata shma b'koli iyatzo. Now let me give you a tip, kid. Right? Let me give you some advice. V'hi Elokim imach. And then he goes and he gives them an idea. Starting 2 psukim later. Look at pasuk 21 for a second. Now we're going to go back and explain what's going on here. You shall, how does Artsco translate techeza? You shall discern, good word, from all of the people, Anshe Chayil, Yirei Elokim, men who are brave, God-fearing, Anshe Emes, men of truth, Sone Botza, they hate illicit gain, Visamta Aleim, and then you will appoint these people over the Jewish people, Sorry Alofim, sorry, Meo, sorry, Chamisha, sorry, as you appoint them as a pyramid system where there's some who are in charge of 100 people, 50 people, 1,000 people, and you create supervisors among the Jewish people. So there are several problems here. And problem number one, first of all, the Gemara says Yisro merited to have a Parsha in the Torah named for him. And the Torah says which Parsha? That starts with Ve'ata Sechezeh. You shall discern. That's this pasuk we just read. This is called the section of Yisro. But the truth of the matter is that Yisro started earlier. Yisro started first. He said to Moshe, hey, it's not good what you're doing. So why doesn't the section of Yisro begin called the section of it's not good? Why does it say the section of you shall discern? Why does it say the section of start off with it's not good? Why you shall discern? So I saw one of the Mefarshim, he says like this, to criticize is not a trick. Anybody can criticize, and people often do, all the time. People tell you why it won't work, why you shouldn't do it, why it's not going to succeed, why what you're doing is wrong. Don't tell me what I'm doing wrong. Tell me what I should do. There's no trick to go and say that I don't like your approach. The credit is what he gives Moshe Rabbeinu an idea of what he should do in place of it, which is start to appointing a system, a pyramid system of supervisors. That's already worth it. Give me an idea. Give me Rabbi Weinbach Zatzal, the Rosh Yeshiva here. So he used to say when people would give him an idea, he said, don't give me an idea, give me a man. Don't come to give me ideas. If you got an idea, go and implement it. Figure out how to implement it. I don't need your ideas. I got enough on my plate without you giving me more suggestions of what to do. Don't give me an idea. Give me a man. So the Yisro is the credit is not to go and tell them what you're doing wrong. That's part of it. Sometimes you got to tell people what you're doing wrong. Sometimes I tell, even with my kids, they'll say to me, they have plans like especially when it comes to vacation. When you have teenagers and you have vacation, you'll find yourself saying no a whole lot. When you become a parent and you have teenagers and vacation equals no. Daddy, could we go a cliff jumping in the Golan? No. How about alligator wrestling down in Eilat? No. How about, it usually action verbs ending in ing, all of which are dangerous, and no. So sometimes, so what can we do today? I tell you the truth, I don't know. I really don't know what you could do. I know what you shouldn't do and what you're not allowed to do. I'm not that resourceful that I can tell you what you should do because I don't know. Sometimes in life you have to say, no, I don't have a solution for it. But a bad solution is not a solution. So Yisro comes along. The first thing is don't do it. But there's a bigger question. No, aren't you bothered by anything here? In this whole little story, nothing bothers you?
Why is Yisro telling Moshe what to do?
Excellent. Well, he is his father-in-law. He is his father. So somebody say tongue in cheek, Yisro converted. Well, this is the sign he's Jewish. He's already he joined the shul. The next day he's already telling the rabbi what to do. He's certainly Jewish. He's got something to say. So the question is, how does Yisro come off? How does Yisro come across? A, criticizing Moshe. It starts with the criticism. What you're doing is not good. B, come across. Hey, let me give you some advice. What's going on over here? Where's with the advice? All of a sudden, you're an advisor. What's the answer?
What good is criticism without giving?
Good. So don't criticize and don't give advice. I mean, you walk up to the king. Moshe Rabbeinu's got king status, and all of a sudden, you're telling him what he's not doing right and what he should be doing. Both are problematic theoretically. So I once heard an explanation. It's actually the first Parsha idea I heard when I came to Ohr Somayach as a student, which I heard from Rabbi Mordechai Perlman, who was Nifter about a month ago. Rabbi Perlman, who was Nifter, who was a Rebbe, my first Rebbe at Ohr Somayach. And he said, Yisro was a person, remember I told you the Medrash that says that Yisro had worshipped, what the Medrash says, he worshipped every idol, every form of pagan worship. He had been through it, and eventually rejected them all, and he came to Judaism. Yisro was a person who put himself under intense scrutiny and criticism. That means he was approaching, and I don't think that he just worshipped one day and he left it. He analyzed what this idol is about and what this pagan worship is about, yet he subjected himself to very, very tight criticism. Because, no, I'm not doing the right thing. I have to shift to something else. I'm not doing the right thing. I have to shift to something else. This is also not right. I'm going to try another option. A person who puts himself under that sort of scrutiny is qualified to then offer criticism to other people. If you're a person who you do whatever you want, whatever whim, and then you tell other people that they should behave better, nobody wants to hear from such a person. But you're willing to put yourself under that sort of microscope, and then you want to. That's something else. That's something else. Then you can come to somebody else. Listen, you're at least qualified. Number one. Number two. What was Yisro in his previous? What was his previous job when he was in Egypt? What's that? He was an advisor to whom? To the king. So he's not, you want to know, what are my qualifications to give advice? I was an advisor to the king, so I'm an advisor over here. But even more than that, gentlemen. One of the beneficiaries of his advice was who? Moshe Rabbeinu himself. Because Richard is the one who advised Paro, don't execute the child. Moshe Rabbeinu is alive because of Yisro's advice. So of all people in the world who should appreciate Yisro as an advisor, A, he's qualified because he was once an advisor. B, you're the one who should appreciate his advice because you're alive because of him. And therefore, listen, I'm willing to hear what you have to say. The truth is, the advice he gives Moshe Rabbeinu, the commentators of Mefarshim say Moshe Rabbeinu was going to do it anyway. He was going to create the system anyway, but out of respect to his father-in-law, which is also a form of giving, is to allow his father-in-law to feel it was his idea. They always say a smart wife is one who comes up with the idea, yet convinces her husband that he thought of it. That's a smart wife. She convinces her husband that he's the one who thought of it, that it was his idea. Because men have an ego problem. I say men, meaning you, but it includes me. And the best defense is a good offense. It sounds like, oh, you guys are the issue. Men have an ego issue. A smart wife understands. Get your husband to think it was his idea, and then chances are that it's going to work. So Yisro, Moshe Rabbeinu, out of respect to Yisro, he implements it. But there is a difference between how they go about it. Look how Yisro, now this is very subtle, but I want you to see because there's a halachic issue here. By the way, the happiest woman in the world, my wife. I get up at 5:30 in the morning. So I get up this morning at 5:30. My wife she gets up at 6:37, and she sees me. I was sitting in my room. I was learning, and she says to me, "So who won last night?" So I said, "Yeah, the bad guys." And she knew obviously that I wasn't in a great mood because there's broken furniture and glass shards all over the place, and so she knew that something was up. And then I said, "Yeah, don't worry, I'll be okay." But I was like, She goes, "Well, you could take the boy out of sports, but you can't take sports out of the boy." It's still there. I'm not proud of this, you understand? I'm just saying. So yeah. In any event, boy, am I glad Sam's not here today. Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure. Oh, Rocky music. Yeah, I'm gonna cry. Boy, oh boy. And you don't know how much. Hey, Philadelphia, no, I don't. The city of brotherly love. Hey, give me a break. Okay. Now watch what Yisro says over here. It says, Yisro, when he says to Moshe Rabbeinu, look in Pasuk 4 lines from the bottom. Now, be very precise here. V'shaftu esa'am, 398, 4 lines from the bottom. This is after he tells them to appoint these officials. V'shaftu esa'am b'choles, they'll judge the people. V'haya kol hadover hagodol yavu eilecha, every big thing they'll bring to you. V'chol hadover hakoton yishbatuhem, and every little thing they'll judge themselves. That's how Yisro puts it. When Moshe Rabbeinu, let me just find the precise pasuk. When Moshe Rabbeinu implements it, so Moshe Rabbeinu on the next page, he appoints the people, he obeys his father-in-law, and on page 400, 4 lines from the top, V'shaftu esa'am, this is Moshe Rabbeinu giving the orders, after Yisro has told Moshe Rabbeinu what he should do. 4 lines from the top, page 400. V'shaftu esa'am b'choles, they shall judge the people at all times, like Yisro said. Es hadover hakoshe yaviu no Moshe, the difficult thing they should bring to Moshe. V'chol hadover hakoton yishbatuhem, and every little thing. What's the difference in the two? Big versus difficult. That means in Yisro's mind, where he's coming from, how do you judge the importance of a monetary case? How much money is at stake? A big lawsuit, a big monetary lawsuit against what's the name of the company? Google or TikTok or any of the that's important. A little thing about some guy with a fender bender. Who cares? Go to the city court, whatever it is, they move you in a half hour. Case is over. In Torah, it doesn't work that way. It's davar kasha, a complicated case, versus davar katan, relative to the complication. What that means is that in Torah, din pruta kedin meya mona. The court case of a pruta is no different than a court case involving 100 money, $10,000. $100. Why? Because it's all Torah. Well, who's right and who's wrong? What's the MS and what's not MS? There's no big MS and little MS. What's the difference what the amount of money is? And if there's a court case, the judges can't say, well, get this out. Just wait with the $5 business till we finish with the $20,000 court case. No, each one there's a priority. In Yisro's mind, where he's coming from, you judge it by monetary amounts. A davar agadol ve'adavar akatan. Moshe says davar akosha. The hard thing, the davar akatan, and the easier thing, the smaller thing. That's on the complication of the case, not on the amount of money. And in Torah, it does not make a difference how much you steal. It only makes a difference stealing as far as how much you got to pay back. If you steal $10,000, you got to pay back $10,000. You steal a pruta, you got to pay back a pruta, but you still transgressed the prohibition of stealing. Makes no difference how much you steal. You transgress the prohibition of stealing. That's the difference. That's the difference in the attitude. Okay. Now, take a look at they're heading for Har Sinai. So in Pasuk Yud Perik Yud Tes Pasuk Aleph, B'chodesh Hashlishi L'Tzeis B'nei Yisrael Me'eretz Mitzrayim, the third month of the Jews having left Egypt, Bayom Hazeh Bo Midbar Sinai, they come to the desert. Vayisu Mirfidim Vayavo Midbar Sinai. They left a place called Refidim and they came to Midbar Sinai. Any problem, gentlemen? You see a problem right there? Read it again from the beginning. B'chodesh hashlishi l'tzeis b'nei Yisrael me'eretz Mitzrayim, bayom hazeh, on this day, bo midbar Sinai. They've arrived in Midbar Sinai. Look at the next pasuk. Vayisu Refidim, they went from Refidim, vayavo Midbar Sinai.
They arrived twice.
Refidim is where they were, where they were attacked by Amalek. But why is it telling you again they came to Midbar Sinai? You just told me they got to Midbar Sinai. Why are you telling me again they got to Midbar Sinai? So, then it says, Vayachanu ba'midbar, vayichan sham Yisrael neged ahar. The Jewish people camped there opposite the mountain. So the idea here is, what do you say, Binu?
That maybe it was more in a spiritual sense that they changed their mindset.
Ooh, excellent.
From Amalek, the whole issue, to now, okay.
Excellent. Very good. Take a look at Rashi. Vayisu Mirfidim, right column of Rashi, 3 lines from the bottom. Very good, Benjamin. Look at what do you call? Look at the Rashi. Vayisu Mirfidim, right column, 3 lines from the bottom. Lama hutzrach lachzor al farchmesham naso. Why did it have to tell us where they left? Felok far kosav shebirfidim hayuchonim. It already told us they were in Refidim. Biyadua shemisham naso. We know that's where they left. What are you telling me that again for? It wants to compare their having left Refidim to having gotten to Midbar Sinai. Ma biyasam lemidbar Sinai b'tshuva. When they got to Midbar Sinai, they're already in a state of tshuva. Af nisiyasam mirfidim b'tshuva. So the Torah first tells us they arrived in the Midbar Sinai. When they arrived in Midbar Sinai, they were already in a state of having done tshuva. When did the tshuva begin? That's the main theme of the story. They got to Midbar Sinai. It's like if you go to a wedding. So who is the feature, the star of the wedding? No, the photographer. What's wrong with you? You got married? Yes, the kala is the chassan at your wedding. You're a necessary piece of furniture, but you're not the star. You put on your suit, change your belt, and you're ready, good to go. It's all about the kala. Okay. When the kala arrives, you'll hear somebody say, "Ooh, the kala just arrived." Nobody's going to ask you. Then after she arrives, somebody say, "Well, where was she staying yesterday? Where was she?" She was there. Now she came to the chasna. But the first thing is, she's here. The Jewish people get to Sinai. They come to Midbar Sinai. And the Jewish people, metaphorically, are the bride at Har Sinai. Metaphorically, there's a marriage. In Shir HaShirim, Song of Songs, the relationship between God and the Jewish people is a chassan and a kala. It's a husband and the wife. And the Klal Yisrael at Har Sinai are the bride. And not only that, it's the third month. How many days was it? from time of leaving Egypt till they get there? What day does the Torah give it? On Shavuos, which is how many days? How many days do we count from Pesach to Shavuos? 49 days, which is 7 weeks. And the 7 weeks represents the 7 days, that a Kala has to purify herself before she gets married. And so the 7 weeks, metaphorically, are the 7 days of purification that a Kala has to count before she's able to live with her husband. And the Kalas, the Jewish people, have to go through 7 weeks of purification from the idol worship of Egypt to change into this mode of being able to, quote unquote, get married at Har Sinai in the mountain. You remember the mountain, we'll talk about it later. Remember the mountain is being held over their head? What is the symbolism of that mountain? The chuppah. Yeah, I bet you didn't think about that when you were under the chuppah, Jeremy. Hey, there's a mountain under there. Whoa! Nasa v'nishma, boy. The Jewish people said, we will listen and we will obey. Every husband better be thinking about that under the chuppah. I will listen and I will obey. You're darn right. So what do you got? They come out, and not only, I get to you 1 second, Jeremy, they come out of Egypt. You see even the 3 holidays. It's a fascinating thing, the 3 holidays of the year. What is Pesach? Pesach is the betrothal period. The groom chooses the bride. Hopefully she chooses him back. But the groom chooses the bride. Follow me. 7 weeks, and then Shavuos, the marriage. What follows? Sukkot, which is the home that they build. So you have the betrothal, the purification period, you have the marriage. There are no coincidences in Torah. So the Jewish people come to Sinai, yet they left Rephidim, and then the Torah says they left Rephidim and went to Sinai. Says Rashi, you know why? It's trying to impress upon us, when they got to Sinai, they were obviously in a state of tshuva. Do you know when that tshuva began? The tshuva began in Rephidim. So I saw I get to 1 second, Jeremy. I saw one of the Parsha be asked like this: what's the difference? What's the difference if the tshuva began in Rephidim, or if the tshuva began 2 days before they got to Sinai? What's the difference as long as they got there in a state of tshuva? If you go to your wedding, and you put on a tie, I don't care when you put on your tie, just show up for the pictures with a tie. I don't care if you put it on in the house, and I don't care if you put it on in the wedding hall. Show up for the pictures with a tie. What do I care when it began? So there's that's what the commentaries ask. So there's an interesting Gemara. The Gemara says that Rabbi Chia and Rabbi Chanina once got into an argument. The Gemara in Bava Metzia says that Rabbi Chia and Rabbi Chia once got into an argument. And a Gemara argument. And Rabbi Chanina said to Rabbi Chia, are you arguing with me? My penetrating brilliance is such that if Torah would be forgotten, I would be able to reproduce Torah simply from my analytical ability. And Rabbi Chia said back to Rabbi Chia, you argue with me? Your brilliance is if Torah would be forgotten, you'd be able to reproduce it. I took measures to make sure Torah is not forgotten. The Gemara says, what did he do? The Gemara says he took a flax and he made traps out of the flax and he trapped deer. And then he caught these deer and he shechted the deer. He fed the meat to poor people. And he wrote Sefer Torahs on the hide of the deer. And then he would teach 5 children. He would teach them the 5 books of Chumash. 6 children, he would teach them the orders of the Mishnah, and he would have them teach it to their colleagues. And he went around doing that, spreading Torah. So he said to Rabbi Chanina, hey, I can't argue, you would reproduce Torah if it was forgotten. I mean, sure, it wouldn't be forgotten by teaching Torah. And the Gemara says, Rabbi Yehuda has a gedolim ma'aseh Chia. That's what the Gemara says about Rabbi Chia. So several of the Mefarshim ask, okay, he did a wonderful thing. Rabbi Chia did a wonderful thing. He made sure Torah would be forgotten. Why did he have to go and weave his own deer traps? Why didn't he just go to the deer trap store and buy some traps? Why did he have to do that? Or buy a Sefer Torah and write a Sefer Torah? Why did he have to do everything on his own from A to Z? And the question answers itself, which is that to the degree that a person instills Kedusha in something, it's going to have more potency. A Sefer Torah written with Kedusha is going to have more potency. Deers that were trapped by a man who put together the traps, who is a Rebbe Chia, is going to have more an effect on the deers and on the hides and on the Sefer Torah at some spiritual level, which we can't possibly imagine. Whereas if he just goes to the trap store, where some guy trapped deer and made deer traps while whistling, it's not going to have the same kedusha and potency. To the degree that the Vilna Gaon says, if they would build the shul with bricks, of the kedusha of the bricks affects whether or not there will be talking and chatting in the shul and kavanah during the davening. That means everything. If you look certain svarim, like Reb Chaim Kanievsky, the Stipler, when you open up their sefer, so right in the beginning it says, this is printed on paper that wasn't produced chas v'shalom on Shabbos. They didn't just go into the store, buy paper from anywhere. They want to make sure that the paper itself has a certain level of kedusha. And what that means is, the earlier it takes place, the greater the kedusha potency. So the Torah is emphasizing over here, what's the difference? They got there in a state of tshuva. Well, it makes a difference. Did they start the tshuva yesterday? They started the tshuva when they were in Rafidim already. Because that already has some sort of impact on the potency. That's what the Parsha looks like. And that's why it's emphasizing it over here. It's emphasizing that it even matters when you did tshuva. Tshuva is always good. Tshuva is always good. But the sooner you do it, the more some sort of spiritual component is there, it carries a greater potency. Hear me, what were we going to ask?
Back to the mountain.
The mountain.
Does it mean that Hashem was under the mountain also?
No, he held the mountain over them. You want to be the holder, not the under. always better to be the guy outside the mountain than under it. We'll get to the mountain. We're going to get to the mountain. Don't worry. Now, take a look. The Jewish people camp by the mountain. This is extremely important. So the first thing the Torah says, 3 lines of the Moshe Allah El HaElokim. Moshe goes up to God. Vayikra elav Hashem min ahar. And Hashem calls to him from the mountain. Any problem there, gentlemen? Moshe goes up to God and God calls to him from the mountain.
Why do you need to call someone if he's already there?
Yeah, very good. Which means, what is that telling you?
One of them is not there.
What comes first, the chicken or the mountain? Right? What comes first? The first thing is, you have to take the first step. Moshe starts going up to God, then God calls. Sometimes a person needs to say, how come I'm trying, how come God doesn't help me to grow to become a better Jew? Well, if you're lying in bed at 9:30 in the morning, instead of having gotten out and go to davening, you're not going to get that spiritual jolt that you're looking for. Maybe get out of bed at 6 o'clock on a frosty Yerushalayim morning to show some dedication, then maybe God calls. That means we have to take the first step. You can't expect that God's just going to pick you up, pull you out of the hammock. If we show initiative, then we could get a little bit of what we call siyata dishmaya. Then you're going to get some divine assistance in what you're trying to genuinely pursue. But we have to show some genuine pursuit over here. Can't just sit back, hey God, call me. If I feel inspired, the inspiration comes from our action. You're not going to feel inspired if you're sitting in front of a TV with a can of peanuts. You're not going to feel inspired. Pick yourself up and go to shul. What's the idea of davening? Sometimes people say, I'll pray when I feel inspired to pray. It doesn't work that way. Start davening, and when you start davening, then the inspiration kicks in. It's a very big mistake, and it's a very common mistake people make. Why should I go to shul to daven if I don't feel like davening? Well, you're certainly not going to feel like davening. You're sitting in a bar drinking beer, then you're certainly not going to feel like davening. And if you're at home playing around with your, watching a football game, you're certainly not going to feel inspired to daven. But if you try to daven, you may get inspired to daven. So the first step is Moshe, Allah Elohim, first Moshe goes up. Oh, I see you're making an effort. Then God calls out to you, number 1. And what does God say to him? Kosomar the Beis Yaakov. You ever heard of the Beis? You know, the girls' school are called Beis Yaakov. Why are they called Beis Yaakov? From this pasuk right here. Kosomar the Beis Yaakov. Say to Beis Yaakov. Beis Yaakov is the women. So you shall say to the women, V'saged livnei Yisrael. And you shall tell the Bnei Israel. Okay. I want to explain a couple of points here. First of all, there's a difference between Tomar and Tagid. What's the difference between Tomar and Tagid? Tomar both mean say, both mean tell over. Tomar is soft. Tagid is direct. Who are the Beis Yaakov? The women. That's why the girls, need I say more? I don't like your tone of voice. It doesn't matter. I told you, it doesn't matter what you say. It only matters how you say it. It doesn't matter what. It depends how you say it. Right? I don't like when you yell. That's not yelling. You want to hear me yell? No, you're yelling. That wasn't a yell. I don't like your tone of voice. Tomar, you have to talk softly to women. That's how women want to be spoken to. They'll listen. If you turn harsh, aggressive, there's all of a sudden they step back. They don't even hear what you say. They don't hear what you say. They're not interested in what you say. They don't like that tone of voice. And kosomar lebeis Yaakov, but men v'saged livnei Yisrael. Men talk directly. You talk soft to men, they don't hear you. You talk to men, you should use a blunt object, because we don't listen when you talk clear, direct, give an order. Now, we take orders. If it's a good order, a sharp order, coming from somebody who can give orders, we take orders. You talk soft to men, I will take advantage of you. That's what we are. So, to Somar lebeis Yaakov. Now, anything else strike you as strange here? Who gets spoken to first?
The women.
The women. Interesting. Yet the women get the secondary name Yaakov. The men get the name Yisrael, which is the primary name. So it's very interesting. They get spoken to first, but they're the secondary name, yet they're spoken to first. They're spoken to softly, and we're spoken to a little more sharply. So what's going on?
To show equalness.
What's that?
Equalness, no?
Ain't no equality in Torah.
To show that they're both.
Men lag far behind. There's no equality. We are way behind. It's there. Of course, there's equality. The equality in Torah is equal importance of different roles. That's the equality. Men and women are not equal because we're not the same by any stretch of the imagination. We have separate roles of equal importance. The way it was one put, the husband is the foreign minister and the wife is the minister of the interior. Would you say that the foreign minister is any more important than the minister of the interior? Well, not necessarily. Depends what's going on. Both have a role to play. I'll get to you 1 second, Letty. Both have a role to play. Here, the Torah calls them Beis Yaakov. Why are they not called Benos Yaakov, like it says Bnei Yisrael? Why not daughters of Israel? Why is it house of Israel? So there's a fundamental over here. I don't know why you're laughing over here. I'm telling you things. I'm telling you survival here, Cab. This is survival. You should pay me for this. The answer is that one of the Amoraim says, I never refer to my wife as my wife. I refer to my wife as my home. The wife is the home. She creates the mood in the home, and she's in the home, but even more than that. The word v'saged is like tendons. There are two types of medicines. A person, let's say, has a respiratory illness. There are two types of medicines. One is you swallow some bitter medicine, some bitter liquid, or a bitter pill. The other is you're put in a tent with vapor, and you breathe in the vapor. They breathe in either oxygen or vapor. The way a man absorbs Torah is the bitter pill. You have to sit and learn Gemara and figure out a Tosfos and realize that you don't know what you're talking about and work on it again and listen to your chavrusa and have to review it again. It's a challenge. It takes stamina to learn Torah. A woman's growth is by absorbing what the husband brings into the home. The vapor of the ruchnius, of spirituality, she breathes that in. Her growth is measured parallel, number one. Number two, she creates the vapor in the home. She creates the mood in the home. She raises the children. She's much more. Why are the women spoken to first? Because women are more conscientious about their Torah observance. How do you like that? Women have the commentary say, a woman takes on a mitzvah, boy, oh boy, get out of her way. Women clean up for Pesach, anything you want to keep, you better lie down over it. Spread your body on it, otherwise it's getting thrown out. When they're cleaning for Pesach, when it's up to me, I'll scrub here, spray a little bit there. I'm done. I'm basically, women, they clean for Pesach, boy. They take it seriously. Everything you want to keep. Your wife is hey, no, it's my wallet. Well, get it out of here. It's going in the garbage. Everything you have, because they take on. Women light the candles on Shabbos. Women run the kashrus in the kitchen. Do you know how fast a man could trafe up a kitchen? Every man walks in and thinks, what do I get? That looks good. Don't touch that. That's the parv. That's the fleischig. They take it seriously. Whatever they do, they take seriously. Men are more, some less. But women have they're more. Therefore, they get the honor of being spoken to first. Quite softly. They don't need more than that. They'll take the instructions softly. Men, v'saged livnei Yisrael. Yeah, you're the prominent one. You get the name Yisrael, but you got to make sure it's clear. You get the bitter medicine. She swallows it, she absorbs it. Do you know that in Torah there's a halacha that if a woman walks into the room and she knows she studied the entirety of Torah, you do not have to stand up for her. If a woman is married to a Torah scholar, to a Talmid Chacham, and the only book she's ever mastered is the big book of Bubby's baking, you have an obligation, according to halacha, to stand up for her. Because a woman's growth in spirituality parallels her husband's growth. There are they need to learn some musar, they have a certain amount of knowledge they need to have. That's not where her growth as a Jew comes. Her growth comes by paralleling her husband's growth. He swallows the bitter medicine. She grows by absorbing. I want to give you a tip also, by the way. When you're married and you're at the Shabbos table, and let's say you're saying a Dvar Torah, and your wife gets up to either take care of one of the kids or she goes to check something in the kitchen, and sometimes you get a little annoyed. Why isn't she paying attention? Just keep talking. They hear and they're absorbing. They have that ability to do what's called multitasking. And they could be dealing with the kid, talking to your mother-in-law, her mother-in-law, and at the same time she's hearing what you're saying. Just keep going. They absorb it. And they absorb the entire environment you bring in. They're breathing in the vapor. That's what the proficient say. It's a beautiful idea. They're called Beis Yaakov. By the way, I went to a day school in Chicago. The boys' school was called Beis Yaakov Hebrew Parochial School. And the reason it was called Beis Yaakov, apparently, because some guy named Yaakov donated the money for the school. So we were always, the other day school, they always laughed at us that we're in a girls' school. You go to Beis Yaakov. And then we'd play them baseball. They beat us at baseball, too. That was a double whammy. We beat you, and you go to Beis Yaakov. You go to the girls' school. So, that's why I had to go to therapy. I was traumatized by it. Beis Yaakov, now they changed the name. Now it's called Tiferes Tzvi. No, couldn't have done that when I was there. No, they had to wait. I think the day after I left, they changed the name. The day after I graduated. That's why they called Beis Yaakov. The other reason the women are honored first over here, the women are put first, is because it was in their merit that the Jewish people got out of Egypt. Yishchus nashim tzidkanios, it was in the merit of the righteous women. The women didn't worship idols. The women didn't get involved in any nonsense. And it was in the merit of the Jewish women that the men got out of Mitzrayim. So, feminists notwithstanding, they never complained about that. They complained that we're chauvinistic. Yet we say openly we're in the merit of the women. That's why we survived. And not only that, Judaism itself is determined by the mother. Goes after the maternal line. So there's quite a bit of prestige for the women also. and therefore they get the honor. They get the honor of being put first. Okay, we'll hold it over here. We'll continue tomorrow with Ohr Sinai.